Welcome to the Monday episode of Arch City Sports. Today, we're going to discuss if the St. Louis Cardinals could get a top 10 pick in 2025. Along with that, we're going to break down the Blues roster part 2. Today, we're going to discuss Zach Dean, Radek Faksa, and Dylan Holloway. Before we hop into everything, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube to keep up with all of our episodes. Make sure to go follow us on Spotify or Amazon Music if you're listening over there. Of course, rate us over there as well. A 5-star would be much appreciated. And of course, go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X for daily St. Louis sports content. We are starting to transition from Cardinals baseball into more Blues hockey, Billiken basketball, a little bit of St. Louis City thrown in there as well. So make sure to go follow over there, Instagram, TikTok, and X at Arch City Sports. Like I said, though, can the Cardinals get a top 10 pick in 2025? Now, we just are coming off a sweep by the Toronto Blue Jays, and you look at the standings, the overall standings, and we currently sit 2.5 games back from a top 10 pick, which means you're in the lottery, which possibly means you could move up even higher. Last year, I believe we were ranked 5th, and then we moved down to 7th because of the lottery, ended up getting J.J. Weatherholt because of that. But not only are we 2.5 games back out of a top 10 pick, we are 3.5 out of the 7th overall pick, of course, without the lottery things happening. So I don't want to be the guy cheering against us throughout the rest of the season, but I'm also not looking at it as a super, we have to win every game playing out, because we are, I believe, 7.5 or 8 games back out of the wild card now. We are out of it. So might as well play the young guys and see what happens. Like I said, though, getting swept by the Toronto Blue Jays helps us when we talk to potential draft pick, because they are 2.5 games below us. They currently sit with the 10th worst record in the major leagues. Two good things that came out of the Toronto Blue Jays series. We have Jordan Walker going 2 for 6 with a homer, a double, and 2 RBIs. And Thomas DeJacy, even though he was 2 for 12 in the series, he did have a homer, his first major league homer, and 2 RBIs to go along with that. So yes, we should be slightly cheering for the Cardinals to lose a little bit to end the season, get a higher draft pick, and begin this transition, which won't be very easy moving forward. I think the sooner we commit to not trying to be just 80 and 82 and commit to, let's lose a little bit here at the end of the year, get another top 10 pick in the draft, and build from that, I think it'll help us in the long run. Throughout the rest of this year, though, beginning this week, we have Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates for a 4-game series in town. Paul Skeens pitching on Monday night. It's going not to be easy at all. They're one of those teams that are right below us. And so if we can really commit to losing 3 of the 4, I don't want to say commit to losing because they won't do that, but if we lose 3 out of the 4 in this series, we're looking pretty solid, looking towards a potential top 10 draft pick. Like I said, 13th overall pick right now. When you look at the standings, 3.5 back from the Texas Rangers, who have the 7th worst record in baseball, the Pirates, the Giants, the Blue Jays, the Reds, the Rays, than us. Everybody's jam-packed there. Right above us, the Boston Red Sox are half a game better than us. Cubs are 2 games better than us, and the Mariners are 2.5 games better than us. So I wouldn't mind losing some games here, finish the year, getting a higher draft pick, and begin this transition, like I said, into what could be not a total rebuild, but beginning a little transition period that we haven't seen in over 20 years here in St. Louis, but it's much needed because things are beginning to get stale. Fans are not liking it. And like I said, the sooner we commit to this, the sooner we can, get the positive vibes rolling here again in St. Louis. I should say positive vibes going for the St. Louis Cardinals, because the St. Louis Blues, I think as a whole collectively here, have a lot of positive vibes from the fan base and a lot of high expectations going into this upcoming season. Last episode, last Wednesday, I believe, we broke down Pavel Buchnevich, Zachary Bolduc. I'm trying to forget. It was Nikita Alexandrov. Those were the 3 players we broke down. This episode, we have Zach Dean, Radek Faksa, and Dylan Holloway. Let's start with Zach Dean, who we got from the lost Vegas Golden Knights, I believe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Last year, in his 9 games with the Blues, 0 points, a -4 rating on the ice. Didn't get much playing time at all, just the end of the year kind of thrown in there. 2024, going into the season, I don't think he makes the roster out of camp. I don't think he is an ultimate impact guy for us, but I think he's one of the first 3 or 4 guys, maybe even higher than that, maybe the first or second guy that we will be calling up right when an injury happens. If guys, don't play well and he plays really well down there, he's going to be called up immediately, in my opinion. I don't think he plays a huge role on this team, more of a fourth line, just fill in guy. But I think with what he's done in his past, with the success he's had at different levels, I think he will play a role at some point. We're going to need him because we have the type of roster this year where we need everybody to contribute. We don't have the superstar power to really, hop on their back and them carry us. Hopefully Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou kind of lead the charge there and they separate themselves. I think Robert Thomas has really already separated himself. But Jordan Kyrou, will he just kind of just hover, around what we think he could be, or will he just take the absolute step forward and dominate and get a 40-goal plus season? His plus minus isn't -30 or whatever it was last year. So we have the roster like we kind of did in 2019, where we need everybody to contribute and just, play a whole team game to win. Moving on to Radek Faksa, the 30-year-old. He turns 31 in January. We just picked him up from the Dallas Stars in free agency. 74 games last year, 7 goals, 12 assists, 20 points. 5 of his 9 years in the NHL, he has 10-plus goals. In 2018 was his best season, 17 goals, 16 assists, 33 points, and a plus 21 on the ice with the Dallas Stars. I think Radek Faksa plays a huge role in the squad, whether he lines up at the center iceman spot or on a wing. I think even if he doesn't score a whole lot for us, he brings a veteran presence, a very much defensive presence with a lot of playoff experience that will really help us throughout this entire season, developing guys, but also playing a huge role on the ice himself, not just in the locker room. I think he has a lot left in the tank. Again, only 30, about to turn 31 in January, coming off a deep playoff run with the Stars a couple times. I think he plays a huge role in this for the squad. I view him as a third line guy. I guess he could play the fourth. I don't view him as a top 2 line player for us, but a guy that can really help the depth of this squad. And that's something that I think the Armstrong and the rest of the front office really went out and looked for this past offseason, is to find guys that help the depth of the squad like we had in 2019, just rolling out 4 lines every single shift. You're just getting beat into the ground, and you can't let up as an opponent of the St. Louis Blues. And I think Radek Faksa helps fit that build going into the season. I really like that pickup in the offseason. If anything, he's a veteran guy that helps the squad, with his presence in the locker room. But I think he's going to do more than that this season. Last but not least for this episode, we have Dylan Holloway, the almost 23-year-old later this month. 23 years old, 6 goals, 3 assists, 29 penalty minutes, and 38 games last year with the Edmonton Oilers, I should add. In his playoff run with the Oilers, 25 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points, a +4 in the playoffs for the Oilers, who obviously went to the Stanley Cup final and ended up losing to the Florida Panthers. What can we expect out of Dylan Holloway? I think Dylan Holloway might be, I don't think he's the odd guy out here, or one of the odd guys out. There's a lot of guys that can fit that third or fourth line role that a couple of them just won't make it. We talk about a Nathan Walker, a Dylan Holloway, a Zachary Bolduc, guys like Radek Faksa who are older. He's obviously on the squad without a doubt. Texier, you got to find a role for him. Obviously, he's a potential top 2 line guy for you. So I do think Dylan Holloway makes that fourth line. Maybe plays with like an Oscar Sundqvist or something like that. Toropchenko maybe. He can line up at the center position. He can line up at a wing. I think with all the centers on our squad, Robert Thomas, Braden Shen, Texier, I think Jordan Kyrie's listed as a center, but that's not happening. He's obviously going to be playing on the right wing, probably with Robert Thomas and Buchnevich. But Dylan Holloway's listed as a center. I mean, we have a lot of guys that can play that position. Faksa is listed as a center as well. I think Dylan Holloway probably fits on a wing better, unless he has a better faceoff percentage than like Oscar Sundquist. Then you can kind of just flip those guys around on that third or fourth line. But I think not only does he have potential to play a very big role for us on those bottom two lines this year as another depth piece. He's young, and I think there's a lot of potential here. We're going to get into the defenseman that we got with him from the Oilers in a couple episodes here. But like I said, going into his 23-year-old season, 6 goals last year, 3 assists, but 29 penalty minutes in 38 games. That shows me he's the guy that can scrap it a little bit, get into the dirty part of the game, but also I guess you could view that as is he disciplined on the ice with those penalty minutes? I think he's a scrappy guy that's going to get physical, and really, again, another guy that fits that 2019 mold, where we talk about like a Sammy Blais that year that was hitting everything. Now, I think he has higher upside than Sammy when it comes to offensive and defensive ability, but he also has playoff experience at a young age. He was around guys like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and that whole squad. He was around that for an entire playoff run, not one series, an entire playoff run to the Stanley Cup final. Like I said, 25 games played in the playoffs last year, a +4 rating on the ice with 7 points and 5 goals to go along with that. I think Dylan Holloway plays a major role for us this year as a huge contributor on that third and fourth line as a physical guy. He's about 6'1", 210 pounds. He's big. He's going to be able to absorb some contact and lay some hits down. And I wouldn't be surprised if more times than not he's on the ice to begin the game with like a Toropchenko and an Oscar Sundquist against another team's first line to kind of rough him up a little bit. I think he fits that mold for us this year and moving forward. And I think he has the potential. He has a potential of being a top 2 line guy for us if his offensive ability can really blossom. Love that pickup from the St. Louis Blues. Thank you guys all for listening and viewing this episode, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Of course, like always, make sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and X for daily St. Louis sports content at Arch City Sports. Next episode on Wednesday, we are going to still be covering the Cardinals versus the Pirates series, break down the next wave of St. Louis Blues players, talk a little bit about St. Louis City and their loss this past weekend and going into next weekend, what they can do to get a victory. And I don't think next episode, but be on the lookout for some Billiken basketball news. And this is kind of breaking news here. We are going to be discussing a little bit about high school basketball this fall and winter. So make sure to like I said, follow on all of our social media sources and continue to follow the podcast. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for another episode of Arch City Sports. Go Cardinals, go Blues, go St. Louis City, go Billiken basketball. Thanks, guys.